All right, everybody, welcome back to the pod, and I'm happy to welcome back friend of the pod, Bulwark's Will Saletan. How you doing, man?
Good, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing great. I've been reading your stuff and a lot of interesting things going on, and I want to start with Donald Trump has been talking more about heaven, about spiritual things. Maybe he's going through some stuff. I think the other day he was saying he doesn't think he's going to make it to heaven. What is going on? I don't want to, get too psychology 101 here, but it seems a little unusual.
So I don't know the whole backstory, and I'm hoping some reporter who's into the Trump family can get me in on this. But I know what's happening out front, which is, okay, Trump's 79, and he's got everything, except he seems to be worried about dying and what he's, what's going to come for him in the afterlife. Part of writing about Trump and religion, Matt, is we're talking about a guy who has no religious sensibility at all. There's some very funny quotes in the piece where I'm just trying to get at Trump's theology, and where people who are religious are trying to ask him about his relationship with God, which he can't even fathom what that means. But he does understand greed and reward and personal happiness and material happiness. So he wants to get into heaven. And he's got this idea that heaven is like a selective college or a country club, and he really wants to get in. And so he's been talking about this a lot lately. Somebody, and Matt, maybe you know more about this than I do, is it Paula White or somebody else who's in his ear, got him thinking about the afterlife and doing good. So a lot of this stuff he's doing now with making peace, like Gaza and trying to do it in Ukraine, he's got this framed in his head as not just that he's going to win a Nobel Peace Prize, but that making peace and saving lives is going to get him into heaven.
You want to be good because you want to prove to God that you're good, so you go to that next step, right? So that's very important to me.
So I decided to take the upbeat view of this, which is, Trump may not understand the intrinsic reasons to be good, but he does understand the extrinsic reason of this idea. And Christianity throughout the millennia has played on this idea. Look, we'd like you to be good for the right reasons, but if you won't, the idea that you'll get into heaven, you'll be rewarded, that seems to motivate some people, including Trump. Maybe we can work with this and somehow encourage him, to try to make more peace and less conflict and war. I don't know. What do you think?
It's not terribly sound theologically in terms of, works and all that, but it seems like a pretty good incentive, right? I mean, of all the if he believes that through his good works, that he can earn his way into heaven, that's really good. That's really good for the rest of us. And so I'm glad that we've had a lot of perverse incentives in the last decade. I'm glad that maybe there's a divine positive incentive. What I'm curious about is this sort of thing. This is a sort of reflection that might have happened in the wake of the assassination attempt on his life and Butler, maybe even in the immediate aftermath of the Charlie Kirk assassination. I'm wondering why now. Were there reports that Paula White or some sort of televangelist has recently been talking to him about the afterlife?
I have not seen it. I'm sure there is an answer to this because there's been a notable increase in him talking about this idea of heaven. So, the other day, so it was a couple of months ago that he was on Fox and talking about making peace in Ukraine, and maybe that would help get him into heaven. And then that was inspiring him. I think Peter Doocy asked him a couple of days ago.
Go ahead.
You had talked a couple of weeks ago, you were doing an interview, and you talked about how you hope to end the war in Ukraine because it might help you get into heaven. How does this help? Does this help?
I mean, I'm being a little cute. I don't think there's anything going to get me in heaven. Okay, I really don't. I think I'm not maybe heaven bound. I may be in heaven right now as we fly in Air Force One. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make heaven. But
he says, well, I don't know if anything will get me into heaven. And then Eric responds. Eric was on the Benny Johnson show, and Eric says, absolutely, my dad's getting into heaven. I can see the hand of God on him. And so Eric talks about what you're talking about. He's like, everything they tried to do to my father in the attempt on his life and all that stuff, and the hand of God is on it. So that's the idea that God is protecting Trump, that Trump is God's favorite, and that's why he survived Butler, and that's why he survived all the impeachments and the indictments and all that. But then there's this new twist, which is, and my Father is making peace everywhere. And that's the proof that he's definitely going to heaven. And that's where we get to your point about works, which I think is an excellent point. Like, if this guy will think of that he needs to do good works, we have all these bad incentives in the world. Let's go with this good one. Even if, like, most of us who have some sort of sense of religious sensibility would say, just do good because it's good. If he understands this and it motivates him, let's go with it.
Yeah. The timing does make me wonder. Remember around Labor Day, there were rumors that he had had a stroke or something. Maybe something happened. Maybe there was a precipitating event that led him here. But hey, if this is it, if seeing his mortality, maybe it's the 80 birthday that's, I guess, rapidly approaching.
True. Good point.
Whatever it is, I welcome it. So that's perhaps positive. Good news. We need some good news, Will. Yesterday I was talking with your buddy Charlie Sykes, and we had we've been doing these.
Love Charlie. Charlie's the greatest.
We've been doing these Substack live conversations every week, and mostly he and I are very simpatico. I think I said something that irked him a little bit when I was saying, I'm kind of impressed by J.D. Vance. I don't think I could lie as good as him. And really, there's more admiration than I'd like to admit, but he is just amazingly, I don't know if I could go. So there was a time, like a lot of the Never Trumpers, there was a time many, many years ago when before I got into opinion journalism, I was an aspiring political operative. And, we always envision ourselves spinning, like being press secretaries, but there's a certain nobility in that. And spin is not lying. It's actually different. But what JD does, I could not do. He is so good. Help me if you would, because I know you've been diagnosing him, you've been studying him, you've been writing about what he is, for example, what he did with George Stephanopoulos this week. Is it as simple as just lying and denying reality? Like, what is his style?
Yeah, well, for one thing, he's got those nice blue eyes. And so the blue eyes are a guy who's been making out with the blue eyes for a long time. Women supposedly love the blue eyes.
That's what I'm told.
You can look. You can. No offense.
Hey, ladies.
But he's really good at looking right into your eyes and lying. He will say that, something that obviously happened didn't happen. So he was on with several people this weekend, but he was on with Stephanopoulos in particular, talking about Chicago and Trump, ordering these prosecutions. So, I mean, the Comey prosecution is such a classic case of, it's just right out there that Donald Trump is like, I am telling my attorney general to indict these people. And I am firing all the prosecutors who look at the evidence and say the case is not worth bringing. So it couldn't be more obvious. But Vance is the guy who will go on TV and say, oh, no, we're just looking at the facts and the law. So he's got that going for him. He is sent out. It's kind of like, who do you send out to say something that is flatly untrue because they have no conscience, that they can do it without flinching? A lot of people flinch.
Yeah.
Matt, if you were sent out.
Pence, when Mike Pence was Veep in the first term, he would try to go out there and defend Trump's policies, Trump's rhetoric, and explain it to normies and mainstream Reagan conservatives, but it didn't really work. I think what J.D. Vance does works better because he's simultaneously doing that. He's doing the job of kind of normalizing it and explaining it in a more diplomatic fashion. And then he also attacks and is mean and vicious. And I think he has the edge that Pence didn't have.
Right. I think that's a very good way to understand Vance. The reason why Vance is vice president and not Pence is that I'm going to try not to use a sexual metaphor here. J.D. Vance will do for you what Mike Pence won't. That's his whole shtick, right? He's the one who will do it for you. And
he'd do anything for Trump, but he wouldn't do that.
Yeah, right.
That was Pence.
It goes back to the January 6th stuff. It goes back to when Trump was considering who to put on his ticket, right? This is February of last year, I believe. Vance was on Stephanopoulos, same show. And they asked him what he would have done on January 6th when Pence refused to try to end run the Electoral College and throw out slates of electors, right? And Vance said, oh no, I would put the real slates and the fake slates, the alternate slates of electors before Congress, and I would have said, you pick, let's have a debate about it. So he was gonna do what Pence wouldn't do. And I think that more than anything else sold him to Trump, because Trump knew that Vance would do anything for him.
Mm-hmm.
And that was proven again on Sunday when Stephanopoulos is asking Vance, so the president says that J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, and Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, should be arrested for their failure to cooperate with and thereby endangering ICE officers, right? I think that was here's the president of the United States saying, arrest the governor, arrest the mayor who are not cooperating with our, let's put it bluntly, invasion of Chicago, right? We're going to send like Texas National Guard into Chicago. This is against the will of local officials. This hasn't been done since what, civil rights? I can't remember. That's an invasion by the federal government. What conservatives used to call jackbooted thugs, right? But now we're going to do it because it's us. The mayor and the governor don't want it. The president says they should be jailed. And Stephanopoulos puts the question to J.D. Vance, do you agree that they should be jailed?
I asked if you agree with President Trump that Governor Pritzker has committed a crime.
Well, I think that Governor Pritzker has allowed a lot of people to be killed in the city of Chicago and elsewhere, George. I think that it's disgraceful, and I think that he absolutely should suffer some consequences for the fact that there are thousands of innocent Chicagoans who are dead because he failed to do his job.
It's really a yes or no question. Do you believe he's committed a crime?
George, you're going to keep on asking this question. I'm going to keep on telling you that Governor Pritzker has failed to do his job. He should suffer some consequences. Whether he's violated a crime, ultimately, I would leave to the courts. But I certainly think that he has violated his fundamental oath of office. That seems pretty criminal to me. I'd leave it to a judge and jury to decide whether he's actually violated the crime.
That tells me that J.D. Vance is doing exactly what Donald Trump hired him for, which is he's endorsing and validating the authoritarianism. Not only will he not get in the way of it, he will rally the troops all the way along.
But he finds a way to Trump says something that's indefensible, and he finds a way to try to make it more palatable without contradicting it or backing away from it.
Yeah.
But it is amazing. You tell me, I remember this. I'm pretty sure that G. Gordon Liddy, whose radio show actually went on at least once, G. Gordon Liddy, who used to be, he's got a long paper trail going back to Watergate, but he was a conservative radio host, very prominent, not as big as Rush, but pretty big, like during the Clinton era. And I remember there was a big controversy. He said something to the effect of like, when the jackbooted thugs come, I'm assuming to take your guns. I'm not sure why they'd be coming. Shoot them in the head because they'll be wearing body armor. Like something like that was very intense. Could you imagine what would happen if someone said that today? If someone on the left said that today? It's crazy. It used to be that the jackbooted thugs were warned about by people on the right, that they were afraid of them.
Right. Right. It's really kind of, I'm just thinking back to the whole Tea Party era. Look, I come from more left world, not left, but center left. And so I thought, well, all right, I don't trust these guys, the Tea Party. I don't think they, are sincere about their beliefs, or they're untrustworthy. But you're always inclined to wonder, maybe that's because you're politically biased. These are good people. They really mean what they say. But Matt, I just feel like the last decade has been like, they're just they've exposed themselves that they were totally insincere. This was a whole movement based on the idea of liberty and protection of the individual from the state. And now it just seems to have completely morphed into whatever this one guy, the president, wants, we will support. And he can come up with any excuse. There's a crime epidemic here or there. He'll manipulate the statistics to create the excuse. And we're literally sending in troops. We're sending in that National Guard from other states. He's talking about, he did it in LA, brought in troops as backup for this. I'm in DC, and there's National Guard on the metro, and I got troops walking in the streets, and the whole Tea Party movement seems fine with this. What is that?
Well, there was one person who was a conservative who started criticizing the right during the Tea Party, and he wrote this book called Too Dumb to Fail. And not to pat myself on the back, but I will say that there are a lot of good never Trump conservatives who were pro Tea Party. I think there were some good things about the Tea Party. I think there were some good people involved in the Tea Party, but that's when I started becoming very concerned. And that's when I started writing about 2010, because you saw people like, I used to like Sarah Palin, but she became radicalized. She started playing the victim card. You had people like Christine O'Donnell. You had people like Sharon Angle. Ken Buck later became pretty good, but at this point, he was, among that group that were concerning to me, and that some of the things that they were saying were not conservative, actually, at least not the sort of playing the victim card was not against, they were talking about the establishment the way that like hippie protesters talked about like the administration at their, Berkeley campus or something. I mean, it was troublesome to me that the populism that I was seeing. So anyway, I feel your pain is what I'm saying. Okay, so it's not just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, there was one Vance thing that I wanted to tell you, but
please.
Apropos of Vance, because this was something that I just saw. So Trump had Milei, the president of Argentina, in the Oval Office this week, and Vance is sitting right next to Trump. This is just an illustration of what a yes man Vance is. And Trump says, talking about Argentina, who he's bailing out, "I like Argentina. I like them much better than ABC fake news." And this is a moment when there's a whole bunch of people around the table with Trump cabinet members, and Vance is sitting right next to Trump. And before Trump can move on, Vance pipes in, "Me too, sir. Me too." Like totally gratuitous. It's like, teacher, just like waving, like, "Yes, me too. Whatever you say." I mean, it's a stupid comment from Trump. Whatever you think of it, it's like, it's a trivial little dig, right? I don't like ABC, but it's just classic JD Vance. He's just there to parrot
I do have an
Trump.
idea.
What?
We need to get a respected televangelist to tell him God wants him to be nice to the media, to the press. If he wants to get into heaven, I know Charlie didn't always love his enemies, but you got to love your enemies, especially the press. This is going to be the key that gets you in. If you want to get to heaven. Anyway, it's better than some other strategies that have been bandied about. So it's not just J.D. Vance, though, who's playing this role. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, has been, he's got the golly G Willikers, persona, but he's also kind of covering up and perpetuating a lot of bad stuff. And I know you've written about this recently. What's your take on the role that Mike Johnson is currently playing in this administration? Certainly it's not passing legislation or convening Congress. We can agree it's not that.
Right. Mike Johnson is, so what he's doing is he's basically the front man for Trump. So America, obviously, we're 250 years old, established democracy. It's not easy to turn us into an authoritarian country, into an autocracy. And it is happening gradually. And to make this happen in an established democracy, you can't just have the autocrat Trump, who, he wants to have more and more power, which eventually leads to autocracy. And we have degrees of that right now. But you need these front men, these collaborators. And so Mike Johnson's role is to stand there while Trump is doing stuff like ordering the attorney general to indict his political enemies, firing prosecutors who refuse to do so, sending troops into American cities against the will of local officials. Now we have, like in the shutdown, like just seizing all these Article 1 powers. I'm going to selectively defund things I don't like. So this is all the president becoming a dictator, unilaterally and taking on all these powers. So what Mike Johnson does, who is supposed to be the head of the Article 1 branch, or at least the lower chamber, he's the number one guy in the legislative branch. His job is to stand there and say that all of this is totally normal. It's totally fine. The Comey indictment, Letitia James, this is all just like, we're just going with the facts and the law.
He's put upon to even have to comment about it. Like, it's like, it'd be as if you said to him, like, why is the cloakroom getting a new paint job or something? And he's like, well, these things happen from time to time. There's really nothing to see here. It's just like totally downplaying the idea that this is outrageous.
And the reason why this is kind of insidious and effective is Mike Johnson is not doing anything crazy. He's not a crazy guy, but that's the whole point. He's the guy who says, hey, nothing weird is going on. It's all totally normal. While Trump is doing the extraordinary stuff, while we should be our national immune system should be reacting to Trump and saying, no, you can't send troops into Chicago. No, you can't like fire prosecutors for not prosecuting people you don't like and installing your personal attorney to do the prosecution. So Johnson is just sounding like it's nothing. He's the one who during this, when Trump says, posted deep fake video of Jeffries and Schumer and like puts the sombrero and plays Mexican music, like, oh, that's totally normal in 2025. In the case of when Trump went to Quantico and says like, yeah, all you people, all you generals, we're going to like be getting you involved in this in quelling domestic disturbance. Like what in the United States of America? But Mike Johnson asked about this and he's like, Matt, that's not my department. I don't know what's going on with all that stuff. I'm not, in the case of Comey, I'm not the attorney general. In the case of Chicago, like I'm not the Secretary of War. It's not, it's not my business. It is your business. You're an officer of the United States. It was Mike Pence's business when Trump said we're going to ban Muslims. Mike Pence was out there saying, actually, no, we're not going to do that. That's against the Constitution. But Mike Johnson won't say it.
You talked about the immune system. Well, there's a story out about these young Republicans, prominent young Republicans, and their texts that leaked, and they're saying all sorts of joking about people going to gas chambers and using the N-word, things like that. And I think that, we have Trumpism has become normalized. We've become inured to a lot of these things. And I think it's affecting all of us. We're not as outraged as we once would have been, right? Because it's the whole parable of the boiling frog and the boiling water and all that. But that's us. Imagine what it would be like if you're 20 years old today and you're a young Republican, then your entire sentient life has been this. Like Donald Trump has been the standard bearer, the leader of the Republican Party, your entire real, like, waking life. And look, some of this is these are young Republicans. There's always been mischief. There have always been bad people doing bad things or just trying to be outrageous. And so maybe some of this might have happened in a pre-Trump and in the before times. But I do suspect that what we're seeing is trickle-down Trumpism.
Yeah.
And that we will be dealing with this, even if everything went back to normal, after 2028 or whatever. We are going to be dealing with people who came of age for a decade in this milieu where vulgarity, sort of anti-democracy, just so many bad values have been inculcated into young Americans, especially young Republicans. It's not going to go away. This is like deep in them. Just like I'll probably like Ronald Reagan on my deathbed, and I'll probably be listening to Nirvana, in 50 years if I'm still around. These things become embedded in who we are, and it's really hard to shake things that you have internalized at an important developmental time.
Right. So let me separate two things you talked about there, because we've talked a lot about the democracy and the rule of law. That's the more important thing, the fundamental procedural safeguards that we have. But let me talk about the vulgarity. This goes back to, 10 years ago, Trump talking about John McCain and saying, I like people that weren't captured. And the entire political consultant class saying, okay, that's the end of Trump. Americans won't stand for it. And then Trump proceeds then and over the next decade to expose that America actually is fine with this. Not everybody, but like enough voters just don't care. And Trump leads the backlash against political correctness, right? We don't want to be politically correct and woke anymore. And the backlash turns out to encompass a backlash against moral correctness. We don't want to have to put up with any of these rules about what you say and think, right? Oh, there are DEI and all that. And pretty soon, if you're not just rejecting DEI, but like anything associated with decency, you end up with like, let's go back to this deep fake video. We have the president of the United States. The government is shutting down. It's very serious. And his response is not like we need to have more discussions with the House and Senate Democratic leaders, but instead it is to post a video of them in which he puts, first of all, for people who haven't seen it, he puts vulgar words in Chuck Schumer's mouth. I mean, the video does. We're a bunch of expletives. And then he takes the House Democratic leader, who is black, puts up that the video has a big Mexican mustache, caricature mustache, a sombrero, and they're playing Mexican music in the background. This is not just woke. This is basic bigotry. And everybody laughs about this. And Mike Johnson says, the president's being funny. Mike Johnson literally said when he was asked about this that Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, should lighten up. So that is the culture in the Republican Party now. And Mike Johnson, a Bible-believing Christian, right? Like it was like supposed to be the paragon of virtue. Turns out that he's just fine with all of this. So this giant permission structure.
For now, he won't be fine with it when it's a Republican who is
Right.
mocked and Democrats are fighting fire with fire. Then that will be the core decision of culture. We have to return to the book of virtues and
Right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Bill Bennett, the worst, who is absolutely turns out to have been completely insincere. So basically you have this permission structure, trashes all these norms. He behaves like a 12-year-old boy and they all follow him. And the other supposed adults are like, hey, this is really funny. We're just going to go along with it. So it's not surprising to me you have these young Republicans, exactly as you said, Matt. You have this entire cohort that's grown up with this destroyed ethic, right? It's like a broken windows situation culturally. And you get this rot. And all the stuff that I was told by the left about what the right secretly believes, I see validated in these text messages. These young Republicans really are just bigots.
Sad but true. Will Saletan, what should I have asked you? What are you working on that I didn't get to?
What is the next thing? I want to look at Jack Smith, who just was giving a talk the other day, what he has to say about, he was in London, I think, sort of safely out of the reach for now of Trump's prosecutors, because I'd like to see a reassertion of the facts of these cases. Trump and his party are trying to do a rewrite of the 2020 election that he supposedly won. He didn't. Of January 6th, that was supposedly an FBI operation. It wasn't.
Or a picnic. Could have been either one.
Right, those two scenarios. And of course, so all the Jack Smith investigations. So I'm rooting for Jack Smith to come back and remind everybody of the facts that he did on paper, but now I'd like to see him speak out.
I thought Jack Smith might be the one to take down Trump because he doesn't smile in pictures, which seems to me a certain type of person. I think it's kind of Trumpian, but most people smile in pictures. A few people don't. Jack Smith, you couldn't find a picture of him smiling. So I was like, this tough hombre. But
Right.
I guess
That's how you can tell how deranged he is. If you were, he doesn't smile.
maybe if Merrick Garland had expedited things a little bit. But anyway, that's Earth 2.0, where the Milwaukee Brewers are about to beat the LA Dodgers. Anyway,
Yeah.
Will Saletan, always a pleasure, man. Check him out. What's the is it Twitter handle at Saletan? Is that right?
Saletan on Twitter and I'm on Blue Sky and also on Threads, W Saletan and Substack. And now, Matt, we've got to learn Instagram. All of us oldsters at the Bulwark, the young guys are trying to get us into doing Instagram. So I'm going to try to get on there too.
All right, and will you be going to this Hate America rally? Will you be attending one of those?
I should go there representing, what is it, the pro-terrorist wing, right? That's yeah. So right, no kings, no opposing kings is now anti-American. Wow, just
up is down, down is up. Will Saletan, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for coming
You too,
back
man.
on the pod.
Thanks, Matt.